Welcome to our next edition of or episode of Living with Nature, our distance learning event. We're very excited for you to be here with us today. If this is your first time, welcome. And if this is not your first time, we're excited to have you back and hope you've been enjoying these kind of episodes that we've been doing since January. So first and foremost, before I kind of get started and everything, we want a quick shout out to Wells Fargo, who gave us the grants to be able to do this. We're very excited that they were able to help us provide this free educational opportunity for you all. I am Leslie. I'm the school programs coordinator here at the North Carolina Zoo.
And I'm Emma Brady, a student at the Asheboro High School Zoo School.
I'm Kaylee Green. I'm also a student at Asheboro High School Zoo School. Mm-hmm. So today we are going to be learning about animal behavior and biology. We'll see how the zoo uses animal behavior and the animal's unique biology to care for them.
We rely on much of the animal's natural history to know how to direct their care.
Yeah. And so before we kind of get started and everything, a couple of quick things. First and foremost, you may hear some noise going on around us. We are in an area that there are gorillas very close to us. So you may hear some rattling and they're kind of watching you. You can't see them, but they're watching us. It's kind of cool. They have some enrichment in there that they've been kind of moving around as well, which you'll learn all about enrichment coming up later. So also you may hear some kids behind us having some fun over at our air hike, our gorilla playscape. But once you came into our virtual classroom, your mics were muted by default, and the chat box is not currently open, but it will be opening soon. So you can still interact with us. You will be able to, if you give us just a couple of minutes to get everything situated, you'll be able to ask questions, tell us anything that you need us to ask our experts as well. Also, there's kind of like a thumbs up and thumbs down and some kind of emoticons in there that you can use. And we do have those poll questions. So make sure that you're working together to get the answers to those poll questions because they are going to come in handy. We have our bingo is our activity for today. Who doesn't love a good bingo, right? Our bingo is our activity for today. And some of the stuff on there are actions. So make sure you get those questions in there. If we're not able to answer all the questions while we're here, you will be able to go onto our website later, and that is also where we're going to be posting the answers to those bingos. But if you get bingo, send us a shout out. We'll try to see if we can say hey to you on the live event. And if you get, like I said, if you get bingo, then try to see if you can get everything on the card. And with that, I'm actually going to be heading off, and I will see you all in a second.
Okay. Bye, ladies. Bye. So Emma, I just noticed something. Something is missing that we had before. Something tall, maybe?
Oh, it's Steve.
Steve, where is Steve?
Steve, actually, he's in Texas right now learning how to be an interpretive trainer. So
wow,
he won't be here with us today, but we'll definitely miss him.
Well, I mean, there's big shoes to fill.
Yeah, we've got some pretty big shoes to fill since Steve isn't here, but we're still going to have lots of fun learning about animal behavior and biology. So do you want to tell them about the first segment?
I think so, yeah. So after you finish up with us, we'll pass you back on to Leslie, where you'll learn about gorilla health care.
And everything the zoo does to use the gorilla's biology to keep them healthy and care for them. And then we'll head over to the elephant exhibit where we will learn about the habitat enrichment, where they change their habitat at the elephant to make it more like their natural habitat and to make it enriched for them.
Yeah. And the elephant is my favorite animal, so I'm so excited.
Me too. And then after that, where are we gonna go?
We're going to back here for the gorilla diet with Leslie, and then we'll go back over to wildlife welfare.
Yes, and wild welfare is a program that we'll learn about, but just so you know a little bit about it, before we start, a few zoo staff went to Thailand recently on a mission to help the vets become more informed on how to care for the animals. So that's a little gist of what we're doing today.
So we'll pass it back on to Leslie. Are you ready?
Hey everybody. Thanks ladies. Thanks for we're very sad that Steve is not here today. Yes, we're very sad, but we do have some other tall people. Everybody's tall compared to me, but we do have some other people here with us. So we're going to kind of introduce who's around here and then kind of get started. So to my right, this is Chris Goldston, and Chris Goldston is our animal management supervisor for Gorillas, correct?
Yes, correct.
So can you tell us a little bit about like what you do as the animal management supervisor?
So as animal management supervisor, my responsibility is to make sure that the animals are well cared for, that they're fed, that they receive the medications or any other things that they need.
Awesome. And then to my left, we have Dr. J.B. Mentor, and he is the director of our healthcare, basically our animal healthcare, our senior vet here at the North Carolina Zoo. So can you tell us just a little quick little things about you do and your job?
What I do in general, so
Yeah, very
basically, I oversee the health of the entire collection. So all the animals here at the North Carolina Zoo, I am their doctor.
Okay, and then all the way to my left, we have Stephanie, and she is a keeper for our wonderful, the real star of today, Masuba, our male gorilla. Is there anything you could tell us quick about Masuba, like his age or anything like that, Stephanie?
So Mo is 35 years old. Actually, his 36th birthday is this coming Saturday. He was born at the Columbus Zoo, and he came to us about 4 years ago from the Omaha Zoo and Henry Dorley Omaha Zoo.
Very cool. And he is our largest male,
Yes.
correct?
He is our only silverback. He is by far the largest that you will see in the exhibit, and he gets that name from that grayish silver color that he has on his back. So he's very easy to tell apart from all
He's
the other
very easy.
gorillas.
He's also, I think, very handsome. But
I can't disagree.
so why are we here today, everybody?
We are going to be doing an echocardiogram on Masuba today. So that's a good way for us to get an image of his heart and make sure that all of his heart health is in check. He's staying nice and healthy. He's doing good.
Very cool. So that I was just learning this from our vet, Dr. Mentor, that a echocardiogram is not the same thing as an EKG, and I always thought that they were. So can you tell us the difference?
I sure can. So EKG or ECG, they're kind of synonymous.
Okay.
That is looking at the electric conductivity of the heart. So that's looking at the electrical current from the heart that causes the beat of the heart.
Okay.
The echocardiogram, which we're going to do today, is actually going to give us a picture of the heart. So instead of just looking at the electrical current, we're actually going to be able to see the heart inside. We're going to ultrasound machine that we've got over there is going to send sound waves into the animal's chest. It's going to rebound back to the machine. That's going to give us an image. We're going to be able to look at the heart. We're going to be able to look at the valve. We're going to be able to look at the wall thickness and how well that heart is actually contracting down.
Very cool. And he's just going to let us do this.
Absolutely.
Okay. How?
So this is training that we've been working on with Mo for a few years because this is a really, really important behavior. So we use something called operant conditioning, which is just a method of training where we offer them different rewards when they do behaviors that we like. We use a type of operant conditioning called positive reinforcement. So he gives us a behavior that we like. We reward him with food, which today is kiwi and orange slices, a big favorite of his. So that's a really, really good reward for him to do this behavior, so much so that he doesn't mind participating at all.
That's pretty crazy that he will just let us do these things.
Yep.
And why is that important? So why do we want him to be able to participate in this type of
So
thing?
honestly, we want all of our animals throughout the park, as many as we can, to participate in their own healthcare.
Okay.
And the reason that we do that is because most of our animals, if we weren't able to do this through behavioral training, we'd have to anesthetize Mo to get these images that we want. And anesthesia always comes with a risk.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously we do a lot of anesthesia here at the North Carolina Zoo, but if we can get them to participate without having to do anesthesia, we reduce the risk of them having to go under to get the same information.
Mm-hmm. So less amount of that kind of being under anesthesia.
Plus, it's an enrichment. It's an enrichment
Okay.
for the animal to engage in this behavioral training with the keepers and through us. So they're engaged in different levels than animals that don't participate in this.
Very cool. So how do you train this type of behavior? How does that work? And if you guys want to demonstrate, I'll step out and let you demonstrate.
Definitely going to demonstrate.
Yeah.
for you.
All right, well, I'm going to step back and we're going to see kind of how this works. And if there's anything you want to tell us, Chris or Stephanie or JB, while you're doing it, feel free to let us know.
Sounds good.
So part of the question you had was, how do we get him to do that? And what we do is by approximation. And by approximation, we mean typically Stephanie will ask him to present his hands. So we'll ask his hands to be hooked into the fence while the procedure is taking place. one of the cues that Stephanie will be watching for Mo is if he breaks station. So if he moves his hands in any way at all possible, she will tell the vet, and then she will also tell the tech that we need to pull back. So that means withdraw the implement so that we don't get it damaged in the process of doing the procedure.
Very cool. So we see kind of like right now they're putting this, they put some stuff on him
Right.
first.
So we put an ultrasonic gel
Okay.
on the probe, and then Dr. Mentor will take the probe, and then he will start manipulating it across Masuba's chest to find the best location for the echocardiogram.
Okay. And I'm guessing that on this kind of looks like a little computer. On
Right.
the computer, that's where he's able to see. There's like it shows on the screen.
Exactly. So what he's doing is he's placing the probe where he wants to see the image, and then it's reflected back to the computer type screen, which will give him exactly what he's seeing inside of Masuba's chest at the same time.
Very cool.
And Mo's very patient. He sits there, he waits, and Stephanie is rewarding him, not so much feeding him, but rewarding him for being patient for what we're doing. Sometimes he doesn't like the gel. It gets a little bit cool to his chest. So occasionally he'll just wipe it off, you know, get that off my chest.
So Leslie, we're going to turn this image around so that everybody
Okay.
can see here, but hopefully we can still see coming in.
I don't know. We might, they can't go super far, so we might be able to. Can we come a little bit closer by any chance?
You can come a little bit
Okay.
closer.
I know part of this
Still
is
there.
we have to maintain a kind of a distance from it because we don't want to kind of too much to be happening at once. It's very hard to see it.
Yeah,
but
it's not
I
going to
can-
show it. So basically what we're looking at now, you can put it back down your lap, is we're looking at the heart. I can see the heart valve right here, and I can see the blood flowing through that heart. And what that's telling me is that's telling me we've got good conduction. Basically, the heart is beating really strong. It's going through this valve relatively well. The valve looks normal. And the heart has 4 chambers. For those that are know that far, but there's 4 chambers to the heart. There's 4 valves to the heart as it moves through, and I can trace that blood and look from as the blood comes into the heart, I can trace it right into the right atrium, the right ventricle. As it leaves the right ventricle, I can see it come back into the left ventricle.
Very cool. So we actually have a question too. We kind of see that we have this mesh behind us. Somebody asked, how do we protect ourselves kind of from this? He's a very large animal, very strong animal. How do we protect ourselves from them? Him specifically.
So everything that we do, especially with animal training, is always from a protected contact situation.
Okay.
So he's always in a safe position. We always keep ourselves in a safe position. We know how much we can present our hands to the fence, but not protruding our fingers inside of the fence.
Okay.
So we always make sure we're working and operating in a safe situation.
Very cool. And we also had another question of how long did it kind of take to train Masuba to do this?
So it's kind of a build-up type of situation. We want to take baby steps, basically. So we will present a hand, present your chest, allow me to touch you with the gel till we progress our way up to using the ultrasound equipment directly. There was another question about lifespan.
Okay, yeah.
Lifespan for the gorillas can average anywhere from, let's say, 36 to 45 to 50 years old. We do know that gorillas are susceptible to some of the same diseases as we as humans have. So this is part of that overall healthcare checkup to help prolong their lives as long as we can.
Which I kind of saw Stephanie just kind of asked him to open his mouth as well. So that's something that he is also kind of trained to do, correct?
Yeah. So actually also Stephanie teaches him how to accept hand injections. as
Okay,
well.
wow.
So we use the hand injection so that Dr. Mentor and his crew doesn't have to come in and use the blow dart gun
Okay.
in order to anesthetize them when that time comes.
And
So there are occasions where we're going to have to anesthetize him. Obviously, we can get a lot from this behavioral training. And it's not just him that we're working, there's all kinds of animals we're working out in the park to do all these cool things with so that they'll participate in their own healthcare. Hand injections is a really big one for us because if we do have to get them under anesthesia, if I can get them to come up and present themselves for a hand injection, that way I don't have to dart them.
Right.
Getting blood from certain animals. Mo's not quite there, but that's the next thing for Mo, is trying to see if we can get some blood from him.
Okay.
And then the next one is, this is Hadari, and he's getting to that age where we're going to be wanting to look at trying to get an echo on him. Heart disease is a relatively common disease process that we see in gorillas that are in human care.
That's why we're doing this?
That is why we're doing this.
Okay.
So just like humans, they develop heart disease as well. We don't really know the understandings of all the ins and outs of heart disease in gorillas in human care because we don't see it in the gorillas in the wild.
Okay. Interesting.
But these guys are, they get a different diet. They don't get the variety that they would in the wild. But again, we're doing lots of things to make sure that we are keeping up with them and can provide them the best care that we can.
So you were saying we kind of do this to this echocardiogram to Masuba. Will we eventually have to train that on the other gorillas that we have around here, or?
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, as many as we can get to train in to do this behavior is we're gonna want to get it out of them.
Very cool. So we were kind of talking about some of the other things that we have them trained on. Is there anything in addition to kind of what JB was saying, Stephanie, that you have worked with Masuba and trained him for his own husbandry with?
So one of the coolest things that we've trained with Mo is we've trained him to lay down. So he lays down on his left-hand side.
Wow.
And we can do an ultrasound that way as well. And when he's laying down, his heart will kind of shift into a different position naturally. So we get different images of his heart. It's a really good way to see some different areas of his heart that we might not normally be able to see in that position.
Very cool.
So we have to get both positions. We have to get that standing up position that you saw today, plus the lay down position to get all the views that we want.
Very cool.
Because then we send that information off to a collaborative group called the Great Ape Heart Project, and they analyze all that data for us and give us, and they're trying to put together all this huge data set for gorilla cardiac disease and cardiac health, so that as zoos across the world actually can contact them and get that information and get some information back from them.
Very cool. It's so neat to see kind of like all the things we're doing right here, at the North Carolina Zoo that are going to be able to help gorillas throughout zoos and aquariums throughout the entire world. It's pretty amazing stuff. Also, being able to have a gorilla lay down in a certain position for you, it's pretty amazing. I mean, we saw him here sitting. That's kind of a, that can be a very natural pose as well, but having him lay down so we can see different parts of it is pretty amazing as well. So we are going to be handing it over to our other friends in just a couple of seconds. We actually will be coming back over here. I don't think JB will be with us at that point in time. I guess you might have some things that you have to do, check on the other animals, but we will be coming back over here with at least Chris, maybe Stephanie. We'll see if she's able to help us out and talk a little bit about what we're doing, how we change their diet to kind of help with this heart disease. But I'm going to be passing it over to quite a big animal with Emma and Kaylee and two other experts over there. So we'll see you in a second.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Leslie. That's some amazing work they're doing in gorilla. I mean, they're training the animal to use it to do its own welfare. It's so cool. So we're here with the largest animal in the zoo, and we're here with the keepers, Nancy and Aaron. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
So we've heard about some amazing work the zoo is doing with their animals, and I know that they do lots of cool stuff with the elephants, and the elephants are really big. So what are some of the challenges with working with such enormous animals?
Well, like I said, elephants are big. Artie back there, he weighs about 12,000 pounds. So he's a big boy, so everything is made to be elephant size. So from the space that they have to the toys that they get, everything is elephant sized.
Wow. So they're also, like I said, really big. And so what all do they eat? I imagine it's got to be a lot of food.
So they do eat a lot of food. Each elephant is going to eat between 200 and 300 pounds of food per day.
Wow.
So we usually give them a lot of fresh hay, which is what Artie's eating on right now. In the mornings, we also give them breakfast. So this is elephant cereal.
Wow.
So elephant cereal is basically types of grain all put together. It essentially is raisin bran without the raisins. But we also give them sweet potatoes, carrots, apples, honeydew melon, bananas, all that kind of good stuff every time that we're training. So again, each elephant is going to eat about 200 to 300 pounds of food per day. A lot of it's going to be the hay, a lot of it's going to be the produce. And we're also going to go out and trim a lot of fresh foliage for them. So between oak trees and bamboo and different stuff like that.
And congratulations to the Golden Kids for getting bingo.
Wow.
Wow.
Good job.
So,
But wow, sheesh. That's a lot of food that they eat. I mean, they're pretty big, so I can understand why they eat so much. But how do you feed them?
Carefully. So we feed them a number of different ways. A lot of times, like we see with Artie right now, he's eating a lot of that food off the ground. But we also are able to hold things up high. We're able to toss stuff over the moat. So we can call him over here and toss some food across the moat. Or we have areas that we can get a lot closer to them too, feed directly into their mouth. But we're always finding different ways to feed them.
nice. And Lizette got bingo too. So, and with all that food, 200 to 300 pounds per day, I imagine there's a lot of, how do I say it?
Yeah. So this is actually elephant bolus, but yeah, you are right. They eat a lot, so they poop a lot. There's so much poop. We have to pick it up every day. We come out here every day. We pick up the gators, and then the gators go to compost, and so then we do a whole lot of stuff with that. These guys make about 5,000 pounds of stuff per day.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
80% of that's going to be hay, and the other 20% is, or 80% of that is going to be manure, and then the other 20% is just basically hay.
Wow. So you will find out later what we actually do with that compost in a little bit. But so besides the space here, what are some ways that you have done to like enrich the animals?
So we actually do a lot with our animals to enrich them. We have a behavior-based program, so we're very goal-based. So we want to encourage behaviors that the animals would do in the wild. So for Artie and for a lot of our animals, we find ways to stretch out foraging or encourage them to browse and look around. So if you see, all of this hay is scattered throughout the entire habitat. So Artie is going to use this entire habitat to look for and forage for his own food. In addition, we will also scatter different types of produce, and those are types of the ways that we can enrich the elephants. One of the best ways to enrich our elephants too is socialization. So while you see Artie out here, some of our other elephants that hang out with Artie occasionally are Tonga and Batir, and they've got a pretty strong relationship. And then we've got a total of 6 elephants total. So we've got 2 males and 4 females. And those 4 females really are bonded. They have a very strong social bond, so they spend a lot of time together. And our males have opportunity to hang out with the females, but also sometimes to be alone, because males in the wild will sometimes join up with groups. Sometimes they'll form loose bachelor herds, and sometimes they'll wander off on their own. And so it's really important that they have all of those different options when we're talking about how we're able to create a more socially dynamic environment. We also are able to have a lot of fun with our animals and coming up with new enrichment ideas and ways to get animals to think and learn and problem solve is one of the fun aspects of our job. And Nancy has some pretty fun enrichment with her right now.
Wait, before we started though, can you explain what enrichment is? I got ahead of myself, and some people might not know what it means.
So enrichment is basically anything that mentally or physically stimulates an animal. And that could be literally anything. It could be something just like a stump that you put out onto their habitat, or it could be something like
Whoa, that's a
Wow.
a giant pickle.
huge pickle.
So this is actually a pickle that we got from Mount Olive Pickle Company.
Oh.
They sent a couple of pickles that you might see when you come to visit the zoo in different animal areas, but we've modified this one for elephants. So you can see throughout the pickle, we have a lot of holes drilled into it, and then that way we can put that breakfast grain in there.
Right.
We can put peanuts, we can put alfalfa cubes, and what this does is it spreads out that feeding time. They're eating 200 to 300 pounds of food per day. So that's a lot of foraging time. But if you just place it out on the ground, they'll burn through it real quick. But in the wild, elephants are going to be walking, they're going to be finding their food, they're going to be working for their food. So giving them something like a giant pickle so that they have to actually hit it, they have to lift it up, they have to throw it. Sometimes we'll give it to them hanging. We can hang it up real high so they work those neck muscles. Sometimes we give it to them just free, and they'll just throw it around, and there's pickle flying everywhere.
And what's so cool about working with elephants is everyone's going to do it different. So if you've got one elephant like Artie, he might be all about flinging the pickle around and wanting it to toss in the air, but you might have another elephant that's like figures out that there are holes there, and they might actually roll it and operate in such a way that they're just gently manipulating the item to be able to get the food source out. So each elephant will figure out their own technique on how to operate different environmental enrichment devices like this, or they'll have opportunities to problem solve. So you might have an elephant where you put something up really high. They actually have to think and roll something over to stand on to then be able to reach. So again, you're creating opportunities for them to problem solve. Just like we go to school, this is how elephants think and learn, and how we keep them mentally stimulated, just like we're keeping ourselves mentally stimulated by going to school.
We have a question.
Yeah, we have a question. Well, first, Roberta got a bingo, so congratulations. And
Hey.
also, we
Yay.
had a question: how old do elephants get?
Oh, that is a great question. Well, elephants it depends on the species. African elephants, like what you see here, can range in age anywhere between 35 to about 45, 55, even 60. And our elephant population already right now is 38 years old. And in addition, we have Cesar. Cesar is 45 years old. He's almost 46 years old. Yep, and he's doing really well. He is followed very closely behind by Tonga, who's 41. So all of our elephants are considered a little bit on the older side, but don't tell them that. They haven't quite figured that out. They're all doing really well, nice and healthy.
Oh, so we talked about the animals being fed every day. What are some other things that go into their daily care and like their training?
Actually, so we spend a lot of time working with our elephants, and we use a technique. It's positive reinforcement operant conditioning. So we really focus on working with our animals where they have choice in interacting with us or not. And it's a whole learning process. So it's really based on learning theory. So just like when you're sitting in class, everyone learns differently. It's the same theory with animals. Each animal will learn a little bit different, but what we've developed is a way to kind of create that learning feedback loop. So when you're training your dog at home and you're working with them and trying to teach them a behavior like sit, we basically take those theories of teaching and we apply it to much larger animals. So we have specialized tools that we use to accomplish this. So the whistle that I have right here, this is called a bridge. You can hear it, right? And what this does is it communicates to the animal, yes, that's what I'm looking for. And that sort of communication is really important when you're learning something new, because you can imagine they don't necessarily speak English, but they do understand what this whistle means, because it's usually followed by some sort of good reinforcement. So something the animal likes, like it could be food, very food motivated. But it also could be things like relationship. It could be a toy. It could be something fun. It could be another fun behavior that they enjoy. So we're able to follow each of these whistles with something that the animal likes to increase the likelihood that they're going to continue to work on that behavior and to continue to work with you. So our relationships with the elephants are based solely on trust. And that is what allows us to take care of them. That trust, you see how big they are. We talk about their size. When we want to get blood from an elephant, do you guys know where we get blood from?
I do not.
I have no idea.
We get blood from the back of their ears.
Whoa.
So
Wow.
yeah, I know.
Ears?
Well, think about how big Artie is. He looks small because he's up there with all these giant trees. But when we're looking at Artie, we're doing this. He is
Wow.
so tall that you're looking up at him to see him in the eyes. I can barely touch the bottom of Artie's ears, and I'm 5'8". So
He's 10 feet tall.
there we go. So again, those ears are pretty tall. So in order for us to draw blood, we have to get him, first of all, to present that ear to us and allow us to treat it with a little bit of Novosan to kind of clean it off and make sure it's nice and clean. Like if you go to the doctor and they draw your blood, they clean off the area first. And then so once we clean it off and it's a nice clean ear, because they do like to splash a lot of mud and water and stuff on them and clay to cool themselves down and protect against the sun as insect and sunscreen. So we want to make sure we get all of that off of their ears before we go ahead and draw that blood. But if I'm working Artie, Aunt Nancy might actually need to pull a ladder up and climb up on that ladder to be able to draw blood from the behind the ear. So that's a lot of trust. It's a lot of, he needs to trust us, because just like, just like us, blood draws are not the most comfortable.
Yeah.
It's not terrible.
You made a fun noise when
Yeah.
she mentioned blood draw.
Yeah.
Needles on the
So
floor.
again, can you imagine like getting an elephant to voluntarily do something that maybe not is not as comfortable? All of that is done through our relationship, and then Nancy being able to safely climb a ladder next to him and be able to draw that blood is really important. And the way we work with them is the elephants have their space and we have ours. So we do have a nice barrier in between us so that they can walk away from us and we can also walk away from them.
Yes. And do we have a question?
Yeah, why do you take blood from behind the ear?
That's a great question. So elephants use their ears to thermoregulate. Do you guys know what thermoregulation means?
I don't.
Okay, so it's basically how they monitor their blood, their temperature in their body. So their ears are like big fans, and behind them is a network of veins. And as they're flapping their ears, that's cooling the blood down in the veins, and then that blood goes back into the body and helps cool down their body temperature, which means they have excellent veins behind their ears, and the skin back there is nice and thin. Whereas if you look at elephant skin, it's very thick.
Yeah.
And so being able to draw blood in other areas is a lot more difficult. So that's why we use behind the ear, and it's a great process for us and an easy place for us to get blood. And plus, that trust-based relationship allows us to connect with the elephants on a stronger level.
That's really neat. And I think that's about all for today with the elephant segment. So I think we're going to hand it back to Leslie at the gorilla. Bye.
Bye, guys. Have a good day.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Wasn't that really cool learning all about elephant enrichment? So we are back, maybe. We might be back. We're not sure. Yeah, we are back. Awesome. We're back over here with Chris. Stephanie's over here as well. And since we were talking all about how we do that echocardiogram on our gorillas because they can get heart disease, and we've seen that in gorillas under human care, but it doesn't necessarily happen with gorillas out in their native habitat. We wanted to tell you a little bit about what we did here at the zoo to kind of like tackle that and try to help it. So we are at our gorilla cooking show today. All of these amazing things, which is not really a cooking show because we don't cook anything. So it's all fresh. But because they are, if I'm getting this right, you let me know, Chris. Because they are susceptible to heart disease, we at the North Carolina Zoo decided to change their diet, right?
Yeah.
So how did we change that?
So
And just tell us a little bit about that. Yeah.
it was kind of a slow transition. It was something that they definitely did not like at the beginning because they received this biscuit, similar to a dog biscuit, but it's more formulated for primates, and it's called a primate chow biscuit.
Okay.
And so what we've learned over time is that primate chow biscuit, where it may be nutritionally complete for the animal, it has a lot of fatty products to it that causes heart disease.
Just some extra stuff in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So about 2008, 2009, with the help of Dr. Rich Bergel, we developed a chow-free diet.
Okay.
So more of a diet that mimics the kind of foods that they would encounter in the wild versus a commercially produced diet.
I see. That makes sense for sure. So what is on this diet?
So in this diet, if you would imagine when you go into a produce department of a grocery store, everything that you see from the beginning to the carrots all the way down to the bottom end where there's potatoes and other things of those varieties, that's exactly what the gorillas eat. So here we have some fully leaf lettuce that they eat.
Check. Lettuce.
Celery, green peppers,
One of my favorites, bell peppers.
and carrots.
That is a giant carrot.
This is a giant carrot. And then also broccoli.
Very cool. And so it's
And
all fresh
It's all
diet.
fresh grade A produce.
Cucumber. Awesome.
This is exactly the same thing that your family would be shopping for when they go to the grocery store.
Very cool. And so I wanted to tackle this when we were in our first segment, but we I forgot, but we're wearing gloves.
Yes.
And then also earlier I saw JB and Stephanie were wearing masks.
Yes.
So why? What is that about?
So what we try to do is protect ourselves, one, from any disease that the animals may protrude to us, and then also with us in turn. If Stephanie had a cold or if she had a cough or something like that, then we want to make sure that she's not projecting anything to the animal.
Okay.
Because they are very easily susceptible to the same diseases that we are.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So it's not only just to protect us, it's also, or not only to protect us, but also to protect them.
Protection both ways.
Very cool. And so that's why we're wearing gloves, because we're handling their
Right.
food.
So we're handling their food, and then as soon as we're done with this at around 11:30, Stephanie will collect this bucket along with about another 25, 30 pounds of food,
Okay.
and she'll be broadcasting that onto the habitat.
So this bucket is not all the diet
Oh,
that
no.
they eat.
This is just a third of the amount of food that they would eat in a day.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So quick question, can they eat fruit or like kale or anything
They
like
can
that?
eat fruit. Kale is part of the diet. Typically, we don't give off a lot of fruit, and we reserve the fruit for when we're doing training behavior.
Okay.
So we kind of use the fruit portion of the diet as that extra special reward for, as you saw when Stephanie was working with Mo with the cardiac ultrasound.
Yeah, she had mandarin oranges and kiwi, correct? So
Yes.
those are some of Masuba's favorites.
Yes.
Does each gorilla have a favorite food?
Yes and no. They all just really enjoy fruit in general.
Okay.
Some of them really enjoy banana peel. Some of them really enjoy grapes. Some of them will throw down like apples if they know there's kiwi in the bucket as well.
And but it's different for each gorilla.
Yeah,
Oh,
every
very-
gorilla has
very
a different
interesting.
personality, and with that comes different favorite foods even in their regular diet. as
I
well.
guess that is the same for people too. I mean, we all have our favorite foods, but we think of fruits as being a healthy thing to eat, but they can have a lot of sugar in them, right? Yeah. So that makes sense that we want to kind of limit from having too much sugar, since we were already limiting from this biscuit that kind of had some
So
extra stuff in it.
to segue into our browse, one of the questions was, what are they eating wild?
Oh, okay. Great question.
So to our right here is a bucket full of leafy things that the animals eat, and some of the same things that they would encounter in the wild. So in the wild, they would be eating more leafy, woody, tender type green shoots
Okay. Very
and
cool.
herbivores type things.
So they're herbivores.
They are.
Even though we have a nice skull right here.
Yes.
Even though they have these giant teeth.
Correct.
We're gonna have Stephanie be our Vanna today.
Mhm.
So they have these super giant teeth, very sharp front teeth, but they don't eat meat.
Right. So what they use those teeth for, and then these muscle bellies that are embedded on the left and right side of the skull, is they will take those teeth and they will strip this woody substance off of the stem of the leaf that they're eating, and there's something underneath this that is particularly desirable for them.
Okay.
That's what they want to get to. And at the end of the day, when we come back and we clean up after them the next day after the procedure, they stay on the habitat. They will leave the stem remaining, and then that's what we have to pick up.
They have to go around and collect all of the
Yeah.
stuff they didn't want. Very interesting.
Yep.
Now you said a little bit to kind of this interesting shape that these gorillas have. Yeah, when I think of a skull, I don't think of this kind of weird mohawky bone looking thing on
Right.
them. So what's that all about?
So the gorillas have what they call a sagittal crest that goes across the center top of their head.
Okay.
You see the additions that go down into the jaw, and that's where we have these muscle bellies that embed on the sides of their heads, which give them crunching power.
Okay. So big muscles for strong crunching power.
Yep.
Very cool. Is that why you can kind of, on some of the gorillas, they look like they have like a little bit
Yeah,
of
they have a peak, and then you'll
Yeah.
see kind of like a ridge going across the back end of their skull.
Okay, that makes sense. So that's all to facilitate really strong muscles for eating.
Right.
So what kind of, we have this bucket of, for me, I'm not a big horticulture person, so I don't know what's in here as
So-
well.
Credit to our horticulture department here at the North Carolina Zoo. They grow a lot of these things for us because they know, because of the information that we have given to the horticulture department, what the favorites of the animals are. So this is a banana. These are bananas and leaves. And if you can see at the very end of this, you can see the stalk end of the banana plant. And this is part of one of the favorites of the gorillas, what they like to eat. So what they like to do is they'll strip these leaves off, and then they'll get down to the very bottom of this really pitty part that is very fibrous. And this is one of their favorite parts of banana to eat.
We give that to Stephanie. It sounds nice and close. Awesome.
We also have what we call Elaeagnus, or it's also called Russian olive, or olive tree. And so again, what they like to do with this is they'll strip the leaves, and then they'll take their teeth and then they'll rip down the bark so that they can get down to the sweet part of the plant. So what we've also learned too, that there's parts of the plant that while it may be edible to humans, it doesn't quite have the same taste as it does for us as it does the animals. We also have another one of their favorites. This is called mulberry. And mulberry, again, is this twisted tree-like branch that they like to eat from. They will eat the leaves. They also love to strip the bark. And then again, we find the remains of this every morning when we go out there.
And you get to pick up all
We
the
get to pick it
stuff
up.
they don't want.
We also have here bamboo. Bamboo is an interesting one because they really don't like too much of this. They do like to strip the leaves and eat some of the leaves. What they really, really like is every spring when the bamboo starts to grow back, it protrudes these little buds that come up out of the ground.
Okay.
And they're very, very tender. That's one of
And
their,
that's what they really
that's
like.
what they really like.
Very cool.
So this is just a small cross section of some of the materials that we feed them.
We
on a
call
daily
that
basis.
browse.
We call this browse.
Browse.
Browse can also be used for feeding purposes, and it also can be used for behavioral purposes as well.
And we have this as well.
Right.
And this was kind of the interesting this is from Africa. This type of
This-
plant is actually an African
This,
plant.
this plant is actually from Africa. It was brought to us as seeds
Okay.
and propagated in our greenhouses. So we now are able to give this probably 6 to 9 months out of the year
Oh, very
because
cool.
we can now grow this in our greenhouse.
And what is this called?
This is called acromona
Aframona.
Yep.
Very cool.
or alligator pepper.
Alligator pepper.
How
Yeah.
much do they eat in a day? Well, the base diet is roughly about between 98 and 100 pounds of produce. But that's split and divided among 7 other different animals, in
Okay.
addition to the browse that we give every day as well.
And you guys, do you feed them all kind of at once, or kind of how does feeding work around
So
here?
we break it up in segments. We feed the first part of it at 9:30. We feed the second part of it at 11:30, and then the end of the day is kind of their exclusive dinner or
Okay.
meal, and that one is fed to them individually in their own little housing area that they can eat undisturbed from anyone.
Okay. Because does that mean that sometimes they'll go and they'll,
That
if you
exactly.
put it all out,
If you-
then you'll.
If you put it all out, then there's one particular female in there, and she'll go in and she'll start collecting everybody's favorites.
I was actually over here the other day during a feeding, and I got to see her do that.
Yes.
We were talking to the guests about that, and that was pretty interesting to watch. But
Yes, absolutely.
so because of that too, you don't just like put it all in one pile.
Right. So what we also like to do is we want the animals to browse or to explore or to forage for their food.
Okay.
So we don't want to just take it out there and put it in one big pile and say, okay, here it is. We want them to get reactive and creative and explore the exhibit or habitat and find their food.
Like a natural behavior that they would
Yes.
do out in their native habitat. I mean,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
very cool. I didn't know if we had any other questions or anything like that. Looks like we're about to. Okay. So we did have, and I'll be a guinea pig for this.
Okay.
So our alligator pepper or our acromoma,
Yes.
like Chris was saying, is a plant that's actually from Africa that we're able to feed them. So it is something that they would normally get in Africa as well. And I have heard stories about what this tastes like. And the funny thing is that the stories are very different. It's like, oh, it's very sweet, or oh, it's very bitter. So there was somebody challenged me to try see what it tastes like. So before we go pass you back over, I was gonna try to see if I could describe to you all what acromoma tastes like.
Well, I'm going to join you and taste it. as
Yay!
well.
I'm not alone. I am very worried. I'm gonna like
Either-
make some ridiculous faces.
Either my taste is off or I just don't taste it.
Okay.
I didn't taste anything when I tried it.
So we just
Just fold it and eat it.
I don't know. Oh, I get it.
You taste pepper?
Yeah, it's a little peppery. Oh, I definitely taste pepper now.
Oh, a little bit. Yeah.
It's not. It's very peppery, but it's not anything more than like something the amount of pepper that I would put on. Oh, I'm getting some more though. Woo! I'm probably gonna have to pass it over then, because get a little more peppery. So we're going to pass it over to our friends Emma and Kaylee. And they're going to be learning about something that we do outside and how we use our expertise here at the zoo to help other places learn about some wild ways that we can help the animals.
Okay, hi guys, we're back, and I see what you did there, a little nod to the wild work we're doing here at the zoo. And we have Nancy back with us again, and Sally, some of the zoo animal management supervisors. So what all areas do y'all supervise?
I am over at Rocky Coast, so I take care of the polar bears, the Arctic foxes, the sea lions and seals, and seabirds and falcons.
Wow. And I just work with elephants. But there's 6 of them and they're real cute.
They're really cute. So I know the zoo is a lot in a top-notch, provides a lot of top-notch care for a lot of the animals here. And recently I heard about a new program the zoo is doing called Wild Welfare. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Wild Welfare is actually a nonprofit charity organization based in the UK. And our previous zoo director, Dr. Jones, actually helped found that organization. So we hooked up with them to do this partnership, which is kind of a prototype. It's the first type of partnership that we've done, where we are going over to Thailand Zoo. So zoos in Thailand, the ZPO, the Zoological Parks Association of Thailand, and helping out with them.
So you went to Thailand, and that is on a totally different continent. So how was your visit received over there?
It was a very long plane ride. It took us about 24 hours to leave to get from Ashboro to where we were staying respectively in Thailand. So I went to the Khao Kyu Open Zoo, which is in the Chonburi district, which is in southeast Thailand.
I went to the Chiang Mai Zoo, which is in northern Thailand. So it took me an extra day to get there.
Wow. So,
Yeah, but so you were asking how well we were received. As soon as we got there, everybody was very, very open with us. We went to 2 different facilities, and then we had 2 folks from Wild Welfare. One each went with us to each zoo. So we, right off the plane, we hit our Wild Welfare people, and then we were with them, and then we got introduced right away.
And they were all fantastic, very welcoming.
What are some challenges that you had? I mean, like, was there a language barrier? Like, how did you?
There was a huge language barrier. I do not speak Thai, nor did I really learn too many words before I went over there. The words that we did learn, I was in northern Thailand, so we learned the southern Thailand words, and there is a definite language difference between northern and southern Thailand as well. So there was a huge language barrier. Something that would take maybe 5 minutes for me to say would take about 15 minutes for them to translate, and then ask questions, and then trying to understand those questions translated back to us to English. So
yeah, that's the thing. It was a big time difference when you went to go and talk to people, because again, the translation had to happen. But other than that, you learn how to, even if you don't have someone who speaks real good English, learn how to use charades to your advantage. So we all got really good at the charades game to help break some of that language barrier if we didn't have an interpreter with us.
So while you were there any like eye openers or good stories about Thailand and the animals there?
some of the things that we learned, one was we in Chiang Mai, we kept trying to figure out why the smaller animals had to go inside their holding space at night. And after about a week of being there and them telling us that we had to bring all these animals inside, we finally asked why, and they said, because of snakes. We thought, oh, little snakes, that's fine. What are they gonna are the animals going to eat them? No, those snakes are really big, and the snakes are going to eat the small animals. So they had to bring them inside. So we definitely understood that. And then their resources are a little bit different than ours. So building some of the enrichment here, we use a lot of fire hose to build things like hammocks and different types of foraging toys. There, they don't have a lot of fire hose, so we had to come up with a lot of other different materials and different ideas. So it was a lot of brainstorming with them whenever we got there.
And so a couple of ththings that we did at the Calcu Open Zoo, we actually worked with sun bears. And so we have the black bears behind us right now. And sun bears are pretty much same size, except they're what are known as arboreal. And arboreal just means that they are tree-dwelling animals. So a lot of what we saw were they had these hard platforms to sit on. So everything was elevated, but it doesn't really mimic a tree or being in the bush. So what we ended up doing, and I think I have a couple pictures here that you guys can click through. The first one is of us making a tire. So they got a tire, and fire hose, like Sally said, is a hot commodity over there. There's not a whole lot of it, but they were able to make a hammock out of fire hose. So I believe the first picture is us attaching the fire hose to the tire. And then if you click onto the next picture, you're going to see us actually placing the tire in the surplus holding area for these sun bears. And then the next is actually a video. So if you play the video, you're going to see the sun bear actually sit down on the hammock and really enjoy that hammock. And that was the first time they really got some soft things to lay on. So that was really cool watching them play. You guys don't get to see the video, but the bear is basically, she says thank you. So
That's so cute.
that's what the keeper said. She said once the tire was in there, she said thank you. Another cool thing that I personally got to do was do a lot of elephant work. So in Thailand, they use traditional elephant training. So typically there's a mahout, which is known as an elephant trainer. That's what they call their elephant trainers, are mahouts. And in that, a lot of times the mahouts will live with the elephants. They'll raise the elephants from babies and everything like that. So it's not like a normal job. Like I got hired as an elephant keeper. A lot of times when you hire mahouts, it's a whole family unit. So all the mahouts were related, but we got to do some really cool training with an elephant that's known as John Penn. And she's an Asian elephant. She's a really cool elephant. We did a lot of footwork with her and using a lot of the training styles that we do here, because their training style uses a little bit of more force and domination to get the elephants to do what they want, rather than asking the elephants to participate in their own healthcare. So like we saw with Moose, asking those different behaviors of them makes it a lot easier on us as the providers for them. So teaching them how to ask for John Penn's feet and lift those up so that they can do footwork, asking her to present her ears so they can do blood work. And then that makes a really strong, trusting relationship with the trainers, and it makes the elephants at ease too, because again, you're giving them that choice to interact with them, giving them that option.
So I imagine that this whole trip was a success. So everyone, what were the successes in your trip?
Well, like what were some difficulties besides the image variant?
Well, this program is actually going to run for about 3 years. So this wasn't a one and done type thing. So we're going to go over the next 3 years, and it's not just going to be myself and Nancy and Jody and Jade who went the first 4. We're going to incorporate a lot more expertise from around the park. We have a lot of experts within a lot of different fields here, so we want to use everybody possible. So some of the challenges right now are just that continued communication, because they're on the opposite side of the world. So we can't exactly set up a Skype call or a call like that, because right now it's
an 11-hour time difference.
Right,
So
almost midnight there right now. So it's really hard to set up conferences like that. So if you ask a question and ask how everything is going, then you have to wait for a little while to hear. And if they run into problems, you're not there to kind of help them through some of those problems. So that communication, not just that language barrier, but also that communication. And we do communicate a lot through Facebook Messenger, and there's a lot of fun stickers. So we've also gotten really good at communicating through those little stickers off of Facebook Messenger as well. But some of the challenges while we were there is just trying to figure out what resources that we could use. and knowing that some animals were going to move to different exhibits. So making sure that those different exhibits were everything that they needed to have. There was also a lack of resource that they had whenever we were trying to have enrichment, goal-based enrichment conversations. We would ask, what does your animal do naturally? So they knew their animal's individuality and their personalities and what they did there, but having that resource of knowing what they did out in nature, out in the wild, that was a little bit difficult for them to understand that concept just because they didn't have that resource. So we would like to help them in the future obtain that resource.
So congratulations for 3 more people for getting bingo. And also with the wild welfare. So is the North Carolina Zoo the only zoo that's involved with it?
Wild Welfare does work with a lot of other organizations. Right now, we kind of have this partnership going on. It's kind of a prototype.
Yeah, we're basically test piloting
Yeah.
the project for them. So the project, what's known as Partners for Animals. That's what the hashtag is. Partners, number 4, animals. So it's actually, we're kind of the test group to see how easy it is to go over there and talk to people and really make a change. And then the hope is we have this 3-year-long contract with them, but then that doesn't mean that North Carolina Zoo is going to be the only one who does this Partners for Animals. Ideally, they're going to get other people to come in and do more things so that there's a more well-rounded, because we can really only speak to what we do here at the North Carolina Zoo. And Sally and I have both been at different facilities, so we can take what we've learned from those facilities as well and bring that in. But the more people that are in on the conversation, the bigger the conversation can happen. So you can do more with less because everybody has a different way of doing it.
Oh, do you have a question?
Yes, we have a question they asked, was it fun working in Thailand?
Oh,
It was amazing.
absolutely. I think all of us are super stoked to go back. We're very excited about this partnership. I don't think we expected it to go as well the first time. I think we all had the same concerns of what's the language barrier? Are we going to be able to effectively communicate? But then once we were there and once we were in it, it's easy. And it's easy to get those people excited about what you're excited about. So,
And the food was amazing.
food was also pretty on point.
Even the ant nest and the silkworms that we ate.
You ate silkworms?
Oh,
wow.
good.
That's all her. That was not.
So tell us more about some fun things like the food, like the crazy.
The food was amazing. We did not try. I did not. I don't know if you did. Try the tarantula or the scorpions on stick.
I don't like spiders. Spiders are important. Spiders are important. I can't. Nope.
Oh,
They're my thing that you can go get the
I
spider.
ate a lot of
I'm with
interesting things, including pork blood soup. That was interesting as well.
So we have another question.
Golden Kids would like to know, how big were the zoos in Thailand compared to the North Carolina Zoo?
Oh, that's a good question.
That is a really good question. So the Khao Kyu Open Zoo is 2,300 acres. So it's pretty big. It would be comparable to our zoo because it's spread out and it's in the mountains. So you can't walk the zoo. You have to take cars. We did a zip lining course and that took us through the mountains. That was really cool, but it was huge.
Chiang Zoo is a little bit smaller. I can't remember the acres
It's
that it
about
was, 200
200.
acres. Again, you wouldn't want to walk the entire thing because it is also in a mountain and there's a lot of very steep hills. So it's built just in the jungle. So you kind of have that meshing of the zoo into the jungle, which is really beautiful.
They don't have to worry about snow there. So all their inclines are very steep.
Wow. So that's really cool to learn about what the zoo's not only doing here at the North Carolina Zoo, but also across the world. And I think Leslie is back to help us wrap up today.
Yeah, girl, what's up?
I don't know. Can you all see me? I mean, I'm short, so I could probably just stand here. I'm used to it. It's fine. Hey, everybody. Sorry. Hey, Nancy. Anyway, so we're so excited that you all came with us today and online to our digital classroom today to learn all about some animal behavior and biology. We got to see some really cool things today. including hanging out with Chris and Mosuba and Stephanie, and then also seeing how an echocardiogram, not the same as an EKG, learned that today, how they are using that to kind of change the gorillas' diet to help make them heart healthy. We were with Nancy and Aaron. I think she was there, right? Yeah. Okay. I wasn't there. With Nancy and Aaron to learn about some of the cool things that we do and our elephant habitat for habitat enrichment. Then came back and looked at deep into the gorilla diet, and you got to see me eat an alligator pepper or afromomum, and it was very peppery. And then back over here with Sally and Nancy to learn a lot about our wild welfare. We really hope that you guys had a ton of fun, learned some really neat things. So excited that a bunch of you got bingo, and make sure you check in for our next one. It's in 2020. Whew, year's ending, I know. It's in 2020, February 12th on 2020, or on 2020. February 12th in 2020, where we'll be learning all about international conservation. And then we are also going to be, stay tuned, because we actually have a video, one of our zoo files all about wild welfare, that's going to be coming up after we pass off. So from everybody, all of us here, and then also Chris and Stephanie and JB, thank you. Thank you, Nancy. We're going to be passing it to our, do we need one more? Oh, and Aaron. Yes, and Aaron. Sorry, it's very hard to remember everybody's names, but especially if I wasn't there for it. But we once again thank you all for coming, and we hope that you guys go out there and make a difference for wildlife. So stay tuned for our wild welfare video, and have a great day, everybody. Bye. Bye.
4 zookeepers from the North Carolina Zoo just returned from a mission to help 2 zoos in Thailand.
So 4 of us went to Thailand to go to 2 separate zoos. We went to the Chiang Mai Zoo as well as the Khao Kyu Zoo.
We go in non-judgmental, and we're just trying to help them improve their welfare concerns and animal issues they want to address.
The visit was organized by a new nonprofit organization called Wild Welfare. It sends experienced zookeepers into countries to teach new techniques to fellow keepers.
So we're partnering with them to put more boots on the ground and help them in their mission. And what they're trying to do is improve animal welfare standards across the globe.
In Thailand, the North Carolina zookeepers held workshops and taught positive reinforcement training. They say they saw success with a variety of animals in a matter of minutes in some cases.
We were really impressed with how quickly this keeper just took to what we were saying. It's all positive reinforcement, so the animals are getting a reward for doing what you want. And he's just basically asking the kangaroos to touch their nose to a tennis ball, and when they do, they get a reward.
The chimpanzees there were showing some aggressive tendencies towards the keepers, and just a few behaviors that we had to tweak. The chimpanzees were a lot more welcoming to the keepers and showed significant progress.
Plus, North Carolina keepers say they benefited from the experience as well.
And not only were we able to bring a lot to them, we came back with a huge wealth of knowledge as well from them. So it was a great cultural exchange.
It made me look at our own habitat here. We have a very large space, and just start thinking about different ways where we can encourage the animals to use every part of this space.